I'm thinking about like every character and how much I love them and how much I care about them. And that's not what this video is about. Hello, I'm literally in my pajamas. I should be packing to go out of town for Thanksgiving. I should be fundraising for my show, but I had to come on here first and talk about the ending of Arcane, which blew my mind. I was screaming, crying, throwing up. And there are gonna be lots of people making lots of videos about the obvious take that Arcane is great. And I am not contesting that Arcane is great, but I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts about Arcane now that it is over and I'm emotionally absolutely wrecked. I need to pack, I need to leave, but I can't because I have to talk about this. Okay, so there are certain things that I need to go back and rewatch season 1 to, I think, fully appreciate. I trust the show so implicitly. I know it's so well crafted that I want to go back and watch the whole thing so that I can truly absorb all the things that were going on. Because Jayce and Viktor's relationship was such a huge part of this final episode. And it had just been such a long time since we really saw them together in a positive moment that it just felt really distant. It felt a little bit more like, oh yeah, right, they used to be best friends, as opposed to something that felt like really present. Of course, I was rooting for them to reconcile, but you didn't really get a sense throughout season 2 of their connection in real time, which could have been a cool thing. I still love it though. I still love the ending as like soulmate besties. That's very beautiful. I would say a couple of Jayce's lines in the final conversation with Viktor were just a teensy bit clunky. And I think I just noticed it because the writing is so good and like very subtle across the board so often that like anything that feels a little too on the nose really, really sticks out. Something that I thought was really beautiful and like well done was Viktor saying that at the end of pursuing perfection, there is no actual satisfaction. There's only the lack of pursuit. And I think ultimately Jayce's ability to understand what was driving Viktor is really beautiful, even if just like the exact phrasing of it was a little bit clunky, in my opinion. Vi and Caitlyn finally getting together. When I started this season, I was like, Vi and Caitlyn are definitely in love, but I didn't realize that they hadn't even kissed in season 1. Again, like I have to rewatch it, but I just knew from my heart and my soul that Caitlyn and Vi were in love. So it was not that surprising to me when they kissed. But again, maybe that's just whatever fandom brain that I was like, obviously they're in love. I do think that perhaps their consummation happened at a chaotic time, a bad time, but I don't know that there's any other possible time that it could have happened that it really would have been any better in this season, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I guess at least Jinx left of her own accord. I don't know. I felt weird about it. I understand why people feel weird about it, but I cannot fathom any other time that they could have been together in this season. Okay, Mel. I am a Mel stan. I have been a Mel stan from the beginning. I know that people didn't like her for whatever, scheming, but that's like kind of her job. Her job is politicking, but now she's like powered up. And I would say that I'm glad that she is powered up because it meant that she would have a really active role in this final moment. But I'll say that I was a little bit confused about what exactly was going on. I see through you, deceiver. Like, what? I don't know what that means. I've been poking around again in Theoryland and in the lore. Apparently that was LeBlanc, but I don't know who that is. I'm not familiar with the Black Rose. I've never played the game. I do not plan to play the game. I like poke around on the wiki and on the website from time to time if I think a character looks cool or if I really like them on Arcane, but that's kind of where my deep exploration of the lore ends. I am very solidly an Arcane viewer. So I wouldn't have minded just a little bit more understanding of the Black Rose, even though I am certain it's like setting things up down the line. I would say that's kind of like a general note. They brought up a lot of threads and I think they pulled them together pretty well, but the fact that we're setting up spin-offs means that certain things didn't really get concluded in a totally satisfying way. Oh, that's probably intentional because now I'm truly feral needing more Arcane stuff. Maybe if I rewatch the entire series, I'll get it. I'm thankful to the YouTube girlies for tracking the Black Rose, but I think unfortunately a lot of it just is not in the show. Like, these are the things that are confusing, but that I hope will be explained in future. It makes this thing feel not completely standalone, which is spooky to think about as they talk about how they're not going to do any more arcane. I am just a little bit lost, but my heart is open to it. I do dig powered up Mel. I did see another theory that Mel was pregnant, but I don't think that's what's happening. That would be kind of wild. The thought that I most wanted to share from the end of Act 3 of Arcane is this feeling of disgust. Somewhere in the title or whatever, I'm talking about the most disgusting character. And here is my hot take on Arcane. I think the show is so well crafted that you have a really deep understanding of all of the characters' motivations, which is so beautiful. And so I would say that to me, the moment of the finale that I reacted with the most actual, not shocked. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't upset. I was like, ugh, ew. Was as soon as Mel killed Ambessa, all of the Noxian soldiers just turned around and were like, oh, okay, we're gonna obey you now. And it was just infuriating to me. Okay, so you soldier people are seriously so loyal to your leader, so unthinking, that even as millions of people are telling you what a terrible idea this is and that you're gonna cause the end of the world, y'all are just like, IDK, we're just following orders. Bad vibes. And I think, I don't know, we have so much, the world of Arcane is so complex, but that moment I was like, oh no, all of you loyal Noxian soldiers are maybe the worst character overall. That's my hot take. I don't like Ambessa, admittedly. She was nothing but trouble to me, if I'm honest. What else? Maddie, how dare. Now I think that Maddie was just an opportunist. Maddie's another one that I want to rewatch and see if I can find where she went off the rails, because I distinctly remember her telling Caitlyn that she didn't have to do what Ambessa said, but maybe she was just saying that to test Caitlyn's loyalty or something, which would be so evil. How dare. I'm pissed at Maddie. But let's see, what other hot takes do I have? I have to say, thank God to the super viewer Reddit girlies, whoever spotted the clues that Jinx was alive. Thank God for you, because the first time I watched it, I was like, but I am now convinced. I see the evidence. I see the pink thing in the explosion. I buy that. I buy Caitlyn holding the piece of the bomb and the airship that Jinx, or that Powder said she swore she was going to fly on. For a second when I watched it, I thought maybe Kate and Vi were on the airship. That was just a little bit unclear, but now I'm fully convinced by the community that Jinx was on the airship. Oh boy, and that just really it's not really a hot take, but to overanalyze. When I first saw it and I was reflecting on it, I thought it was that Jinx deciding to leave, this line from Silco about walking away, was really meaningful. And also just this idea that her own guilt was something she felt she could never escape from. Oh my God. And when Vi hesitated to try to help Vander Warwick, Jinx tried to help her. God, I'm going to be thinking about this forever. But just the idea that Jinx could not forgive herself. Even if everybody else forgave her, everybody else saw her as a hero, she couldn't forgive herself, was my initial read on that, which I thought was quite heartbreaking. But now that I think that she is alive, I have been convinced. I still find it very meaningful. And this line, "You'd never give up on me, sis." Someone on Reddit pointed this out and I was like, oh my God, just Jinx understanding Vi's nature and truly appreciating that Vi would never let her go. And so she had to walk away on her own terms, regardless of her own feeling of guilt, whatever. Just that was kind of stunning. I feel like I'm not phrasing it well, but the idea that in order for Vi to move on, Jinx sacrifices herself, disappears. Because I do think that's something that's so true about Vi, is that she would never rest until she got Jinx back, got Powder back. The idea of Jinx truly believing that she's bad luck hurts my feelings. So I am choosing to believe that instead she probably did in a lot of ways deal with her own guilt, or is still processing her guilt in a lot of ways. But also I think that she consciously decided to give Vi some time and go off on her own and figure out who she was outside of this relationship with her sister, this like codependency, which is like fair. Yeah. God. Oh my God. And just like something like coming from episode 7 where I was like, oh, where is Vi? Where is Vi? That Vi was dead. I don't know. For the ending, when I thought Jinx was dead, I was like, is the show saying that there's no universe in which these two can be together and be happy? Is the idea that these two forces, Vi and Powder / Jinx, like are just so powerful, such influences on their world that they will constantly be in conflict and can never really exist in the same place stably? Just an interesting idea. But now I'm hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful that maybe we'll get a movie where the sisters get back together or something, because I need that. I need it. I will not be okay until I see that. God, Ekko. This is not a hot take. I need more Ekko in my life too. I want to go back to episode 7. Oh my God, when Ekko left the alternate reality, I was shook to my core. That whole experience, sweet Powder, like it was so nice to see just Ekko and Powder just doing science together like the cute little baby nerds that they are. I'll pretend like it's the first time. Like, why would you say that to me? Why would you say that to me? Everything emotional in Arcane was hitting. It was firing on all cylinders. I was truly screaming, crying, throwing up multiple times throughout. None of this is hot takes. I'm trying really hard not to just like screech about things I liked about it and focus on my hot takes. In general, some things I find a little bit confusing in Arcane, but maybe they make more sense in the game. I'm trying to work through the timey-wimey aspects of Jayce and Viktor's story, and I'm pretty sure what happened is that Viktor destroyed the world, finally found understanding, regret. And then I guess Viktor began to understand the multiverse or multiple timelines and explored them and figured out which rune. I don't understand the runes. Maybe if I rewatch season 1, I will understand more of the runes. But as it was, I was like, oh, wow. I guess the runes are really important. Like, other than wild runes and hex runes, just like that one symbol that was obviously really important, I didn't totally understand the meaning of, like, in the moment. I think I'm watching pretty carefully, but maybe if I go back and rewatch season 1, I will get it. It's like, okay, Jayce needed to give Viktor that rune in order to prevent the end of the universe. But like, why? It would have been cool if Viktor was like, I'm looking for blank, but he wasn't looking for anything. Does that make sense? Again, tell me down below if I missed anything, because maybe I did, or maybe it's like somewhere else distant in the lore. Again, I only really know the show. There are a lot of different forces at play. I'm wondering what happened to the Firelights. I mean, obviously, like, the Firelight people exist and the Jinxes exist. There's so many different factions in this world, which is exciting, but occasionally like, whoa, wait, who is important? What do I need to be keeping track of? I am curious, like, whatever happened to the Firelights? Whatever happened to that cool tree underground? That was cool. I don't know. And I mean, I assume that there's not really any shimmer anymore, but what do I know? I think they probably have more important things to do than do shimmer, I guess. This is kind of like the general thing of the show. There are so many different forces and substances that it's occasionally hard for me as a just show girly to keep track. It's like, okay, well, there's hex tech, and then there's chem tech, and then there's shimmer, which is separate from chem tech, and then there's the arcane and just like straight up magic, and then there's straight up science. And understanding like how all of these things interact and what they can do is a little bit confusing for me. But again, maybe on a rewatch I will get it. But I do think best case scenario, I would have been able to absorb it the first time through, because I was pretty locked in. I was watching. I was paying attention. Yeah, this season it just felt like, wait, they're using Chemtech, they're using Shimmer, they're using Chemtech and Shimmer, they're using Hextech and also Shimmer. I just don't totally understand the rules of the universe yet. I guess what I'm saying is in the next bits of world building for Arcane, I would be interested to see a clearer understanding. It doesn't need to be like paper beats rock, rock beats scissors, whatever, but just like an understanding of how all the different forces in this world interact, what is possible, what is impossible, what did we think was impossible that is now possible. Like when Viktor began to create those robot creatures, I was like, I did not know that this was something that we could do. This is interesting to me because we got time travel, we got transhumanism, we got magic, we've got Chemtech, we got Shimmer, like super drugs. I just understanding the boundaries of this world would be something that would help me really understand the stakes that we're dealing with, because otherwise I'm just not totally sure what the true impact of things is. Everyone in this show has some flavor of obsession to them, or like finds their way into an obsessive world, whether that's Viktor's obsession with perfection, technology. Caitlyn becomes obsessed with Jinx after her mother's death. Jinx is obsessed with Vi and with her abandonment. I think the least obsessive character in the main cast is probably Ekko, and that is yet another thing about him that sets him apart from the main cast or from everybody else running around this mad world. He's the one who can see a different way of doing things. He sees beyond piltover versus zaun. He works outside of the system. Although, I suppose his ability to manipulate time means that he has more room for flexibility and more room to figure out other ways to get what he wants without that single-minded focus. He still has the single-minded focus, but he's able to try out different things and make up for his mistakes. Something that I didn't realize until I watched is that the time travel has consequences. That's just really neat. That's such a cool aspect of that power. I guess I would say Mel is also somewhat less obsessive than the others just because she is flexible. She's like able to use different tactics in a way that some of the other characters are truly just like, this is exactly what I do and this is how I will do it. Unwavering. She is good at, I think, changing her perspective. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. These obsessive forces and then the dogged pursuit of one thing, like a character's like doggedly pursuing one thing and then another character is doggedly pursuing that person is really cool and really beautiful. The idea of these people, the Vi's and Jayces of the world who never, ever, ever give up on their loved ones is so beautiful. Even when it cost them everything is stunning. Another person who never, ever gave up on their loved one is the Singed. Singed never gave up and seemingly got what he wanted too. I did look up, I saw something about the doll daughter that may come to pass in show world as well. But it's funny that people say he has the happy ending, which I guess he kind of does, but you never know, you know? Plenty of room for misery in the land of Arcane. I would say everyone who survived lost something, which I think is bittersweet action drama writing at its finest, right? But Caitlyn sacrificed her eye to vulnerabilify Ambassa, which is very powerful. Okay, something else that I thought about in season 1 that I feel is less true now, like as the conclusion came. I felt like in season 1, you could kind of tell who the good guys were, or like who was meant to be sympathetic by the character's physical appearance. Like people who were conventionally attractive tended to be protagonist characters, and people who maybe had like disabilities or physical deformities were considered suspicious or bad, which I didn't love. But I think as of the end of this season, that was no longer true. That was something that made me go, in season 1. It's just like, oh, the scary looking person is evil. Who would ever have guessed? I think that changed somewhat this time around. The lasting scars, literal, that the characters had by the end of the season, I think are representative of this idea that good people do not have quote unquote perfect bodies all the time. That's something else that I kind of want to like continue to reflect on. Real lore heads, tell me what you think, but like Jayce messing up his leg when in his alternate reality when he fell down the pit, and then Jayce puts on the leg brace and begins to use the walking stick. That was very interesting, and I'm sure it was intentional. I'm sure it was an intentional callback to Viktor, but I do kind of wonder if that idea of no one escaping unscathed and that people with quote unquote imperfect bodies can do fantastic things and do good things and have a huge positive impact on the world, I think is a really important idea to include. Okay, here's what I hope happens in the future of Arcane and like in future League of Legends Netflix extended universe. I need Violet and Jinx to get back together. I need it. I will not be okay until it happens. Like if you see me walking around, just know that I'm not okay until that happens. They're the emotional core of the show. I think I need like a Vi and Jinx reunion movie. I can't really see a world in which those characters are brought back together in a truly satisfying way as like background characters in another story. As far as I can tell, Vander has been dead since he was shimmerfied or re-shimmerfied or re-chemicalfied, whatever the Singe did to him at the beginning of episode 8. That was, oh God, the animation there was stunning. And I'm like, okay, I guess I have to let him go. Horrible. They had those moments. And I'm like, if Viktor could have just had another minute, but also Viktor was turning evil too, and just heartbreaking. Lots of dramatic irony, lots of if only. Yeah, gosh. Since Viktor and Jayce are in the game, I'm like, maybe they're in some other universe. I mean, I guess they are in some other universe because there definitely are established other universes. So maybe they're together in another universe. Maybe somehow all the universes get combined or collapsed or something. I do think that setting up the multiverse is cool, and I think it was quite well done. A lot of these characters, even ones that died, are in the game. So I'm like, maybe there's a universe in which they're all alive and together, and that's the universe in which the actual game takes place. I don't really know. Of course, I'm curious to know more about Mel. I'm curious to know more about the mages. I feel like that was explained very poorly, so I'm ready to learn. I'm excited to see what Ekko gets up to. I just love that character. So I really support Ekko in anything. Although I do feel like Ekko's ending was relatively contained, actually, even though I would still love to see more of that character. Would love to see more Savika being a baddie on the council. That's cool. Some exciting things were set up. I'll be really curious to see what they end up focusing on since Arcane is no more. But in general, I trust this creative team a lot, which is a good feeling to have. I trust them to tell a good story, even if it makes me scream and cry and throw up. Okay, I don't know if that's everything, but it doesn't have to be everything. We can have a discussion. We can have a communication. Feel free to bonk me on the head if you're like, girl, you totally missed this incredibly important thing, because maybe I did. And I don't know, if you see this in time, feel free to check out my TV show pilot that I'm working on. That's looking pretty cute. I'm very excited about it. And check out one of these other videos where I think too hard about stuff on TV. More stuff coming. This year has been wild, but doing YouTube stuff has been a fun little part of it. So yay, excited to see and hear what you have to say. Okay, I have to go pack. I have to go to sleep. I have to take out the trash. Like, blah. Okay, bye.